Awesome. Make sure to complete that poll. What best describes your role today? We'll give it another 10 seconds. And then Emily, if you wouldn't mind telling us the results. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Just ended the poll. So the question, if you didn't see it, was what best describes your role today? 53% were selected librarian or library staff. We had 9% who said they were informal educators, so an after-school museum, community-based organization educator. 7% said they're an active citizen scientist. 2% said they're a project scientist, and 24% said they're a curious observer. And then we had 5% that said other.
Wonderful. So today's webinar is really focused on all the great resources that are supporting this film, from educator guides and library guides, and also citizen science guides, to bringing citizen science to your library or to your community. So we're going to get started. Let me tell you about our amazing presenters today. We're going to start with Jared Lipworth, who is the executive producer and head of outreach and impact at HHMI Tangled Bank Studios. And then also joined from Tangled Bank Studios, Alex Pearson, impact and communications producer. We also have Clay Bolt from senior communications lead in Northern Great Plains program at the World Wildlife Fund, and Kate Walker, senior specialist of education at the World Wildlife Fund as well. And I'm Tara Cox. I'm the assistant director of programs at the National Girls Collaborative Project, and I'm also the lead of the National Citizen and Community Science Library Network, along with Emily. And we'll tell you a little bit more about all of these things throughout the webinar. Let's pass it over to Jared.
Thank you very much. Hopefully my camera is back on and I'm unmuted. Thank you so much, Tara. And it's so great to be here with SciStarter and with all of the libraries and participants who are here. I'm going to start off just really briefly telling you a little bit about the film, and then I'll come back afterwards and tell you a little bit more about our outreach campaign. But basically, My Garden of 1,000 Bees started when Martin Dorn, who is a world famous, critically acclaimed natural history filmmaker, was quarantining in his house in Bristol, England, with his small backyard. Now, Martin is probably the preeminent cinematographer of macro natural history. So he's built special cameras. He's gone chasing everything from new species of ants in the rainforest to the giant squid. But all of a sudden he was stuck in his backyard and decided to make a film about, or actually just decided to start filming all of the bees in his backyard. And over the course of the next year, filmed over 60 species of bees, spent so much time out there that he eventually was able to identify individual bees and kind of follow their stories. And I can tell you, watching this film, you will never see bees the same way again. It's just spectacular what he was able to do and what his story was. So the film premiered in last October on PBS Nature. It kicked off their 40th season, Nature, and there'll be a national rebroadcast on May 4th, 2022. So we're targeting a lot of our outreach around that national rebroadcast. Film's also streaming for free on the PBS site. The link is there. So, you can watch it at any time. You can do screenings via the streaming link if that's of interest. I'm going to come back, as I said, and tell you a lot more about our outreach campaign, but I think first we'll turn it over to Clay, who can tell you about the 1 Square Foot initiative, which is something that we kind of joined with as part of our outreach. So I'll turn it over to Clay and then give you more information in a little while. Clay?
Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here today to talk to you about some of the work that we do here at WWF's Northern Great Plains program, as well as my passion for North America's native bees. Here in the Northern Great Plains, which is a region that spans 5 US states and 2 Canadian provinces, our goal with WWF is to conserve the grasslands, protect the wildlife that lives here, and support the communities that are found throughout this vast region. And one of the biggest threats to this region is actually plow up for row crop agriculture. Unfortunately, since 2009, we've lost over 33 million acres of grassland to plow up for row crop ag. And so in addition to trying to conserve the grasslands that we have, we're also working very hard to restore the grasslands that were previously plowed so that wildlife such as pollinators have a place to live. And a couple of years ago, we were fortunate to be able to start a partnership with Airwick Scented Oils to reseed 1 billion square feet of wildflower and grassland habitat here in the Northern Great Plains through a project called the 1 Square Foot Initiative. And so in addition to that, one of the cool things about it is we want to spread the message that even a square foot of pollinator habitat in your backyard can make a difference for pollinators. And so through this initiative, we've been giving away seed packets to homeowners so that you can plant your own square foot of regionally appropriate native wildflower seeds in your backyard. And we have some great opportunities to partner with folks like these guys from HHMI to spread the word not only about the value of our native pollinators, but to encourage everyone to make a difference to support their own local insect community. Next slide. So, you know, one of the things that I feel like I'm an evangelist for is helping people realize how many bees we have, just how amazing bees are. And oftentimes people don't realize that in North America alone, we have over 4,000 species of native bees. There's around 20,000 species of bee in the world. And so often we only think about, say, the honeybee, but in fact, the honeybee is not native to North America. It was introduced in the 1600s. But meanwhile, we have all of these amazing species that do incredible things. We have bees that can live in the Arctic. We have bees that fly at night. We have bees that perform all of these different ecosystem services for wildflowers, and the seeds that they produce help feed songbirds and mammals. So they're really, really integral to the world that we live in. And pollination does so much more than just give us food. Many of the foods that we love the most are produced by pollinators. However, what people often don't understand is that the grasslands, for example, here in the Northern Great Plains, are really important for keeping carbon out of the environment. You can almost imagine that the grasslands are like a forest turned upside down. And so much of those roots, the root systems of these plants can go 10 to 15 feet down into the soil, sequestering vast amount of carbon. The grasslands also help to filter clean air. And they also, in addition to that, keep water in the soil instead of allowing it to run off. And so much of that is tied to bees because, of course, without bees pollinating these flowers and these grasses, they're not able to continue to exist. So bees play such an integral role. Now, for you guys, what I would say is, if you want to support bees, there are a lot of different things you can do, but I think it really starts very simply with providing food for bees in your backyard or your patio, which means planting natively appropriate wildflowers and flowers that bloom from early spring all the way through the fall so that bees have a varied diet throughout the season. And another thing you can do that's super important is avoid spraying pesticides in your garden because pesticides are obviously, as I'm sure most of you are aware, are really bad for bees. And in addition to that, if you have a backyard where you can leave a little corner messy, for example, leave some leaves on the ground or some rotting logs, or even, you know, instead of cutting down last year's flower stalks, leaving some of those, many bees will nest within those, and that provides a home for them. So that's a really easy way that you can help bees in your local community.
So I think back to me now. Thank you, Clay. Yeah, you know, it's funny because early on, so I'll back up a little bit. So Tangled Bank Studios is a production company and impact studio. So every time we get involved in a film project, we think about what the most impact we can have beyond the film. And you know, in this case, early on, we got really excited about all the possibilities of you know, what we could do with a film that tells the story of native bees. I remember really early on talking to one of our experts, and I was, you know, sort of excited to tell him that my parents had just gotten a couple of beehives in their backyard in New York, and you know, he quickly said, "Yeah, well, that's great," and you know, kind of what Clay said, but really, it's not about the honeybees; it's about the native bees. And you know, for me, that was a light bulb moment, and I kind of realized that's what our focus needs to be. If we can get people to come away from this film and from the outreach with an understanding of that there are so many native bees and that not all bees live the way honeybees live, and how important they are to local ecosystems wherever you are, and how easy it is to actually get involved and make a difference for the health of the bees in your area. So those were sort of the big premises that we were trying to figure out how to dive into with our outreach campaign. The film, as I mentioned, aired on PBS, and WNET was our main partner there. They produced the series Nature. But we wanted to expand beyond just the PBS world. So we partnered with local PBS stations who would do local events. We also partnered with StarNet, which I'm sure many of you already know them, a great producer of STEM content for libraries, and an organization we'd worked with great success on another project called Backyard Wilderness a few years ago. And then as we were thinking about what would our calls to action be, we wanted to see if we could get people to plant wildflowers. And then, of course, came across the incredible work that WWF was doing, and started talking to them about the ways we could collaborate. Love the 1 square foot idea, because just this idea that no matter where you are, whether it's a rural area where you can be planting fields worth of wildflowers, or suburbs in a backyard, or even urban areas where you're putting a couple of pots on your windowsill, those can make a difference. Those can actually help the local pollinators. So we loved that idea and wanted to build our campaign around that. Alex, my colleague, is going to tell you about all the details of the various pieces of it, but just sort of big picture, as I mentioned, we partnered with WNET and a couple of other PBS stations, Georgia Public Broadcasting, Nebraska Public Media, WFSU Public Media in Tallahassee, and Wyoming PBS, to build outreach campaigns where they're going to be hosting events. There's a lot of different options here. We try to design our outreach so that we make sure that everybody is kind of working towards the same big picture goals, but that everybody has the flexibility to do events that work for them in their communities. So we've suggested film screenings and expert talks and pollinator garden plantings. In the citizen science world, we've got outdoor bio blitzes have become really, really popular. We work with iNaturalist on that. We also, Alex will talk more about Seek, which is an app that we were involved in developing, a kind of a kids version of iNaturalist that is worth checking out if you don't know it. So we partnered with these PBS stations who started developing their events, and then we partnered with StarNet to put out an RFP to libraries to also do similar kinds of events where they could be doing plantings and screenings. And we had an incredible response. Every time I see this map, more yellow dots have been added. And we're just so excited about how many libraries have gotten involved, such great distribution across the country. Really excited about, how easy the activation is. And that was our intention. So the idea is, as I said, we're giving people lots of flexibility. We're giving people lots of resources that we've created and we've worked with WWF to create to build these campaigns. We're giving out free seeds as well. Alex has been sort of, she's been in charge of getting all the seeds to all the people, and that has turned into quite a job given the number of seed packets that we've distributed and are distributing. But if everybody plants the seeds we've sent, we're talking about 1.3 million square feet of native wildflowers that could be grown from the seeds we've given out. So we're really excited about that. Overall, it's about engagement. It's about starting with a film and then going far beyond that, about local relevance. And in this case, some really basic messages about the importance of native bees and their habitats that we think people can get really excited about. So with that, I think I will turn it over to Alex, who will go through some of the details of what's involved. If you guys and your libraries and organizations want to get involved in this program, what materials we've got, what resources we have available, and how to go about that. Alex?
Thanks, Jared. And really excited to be here with all of you. I did see some names of some libraries that we're already working with in the chat, so lovely to see you all here too. So what we're hoping to do today is extend an invitation for anyone to participate in our campaign. Hosting a screening of the film is a free and engaging opportunity to start up a conversation about how to protect pollinators in your community. So what we did is we put together a free toolkit, which will be sent around to everyone here following this webinar, that includes all of the resources we've created, as well as best practices for how to host a screening of a film. The film is 53 minutes long. There's no cost to show it. It's available to stream for free on PBS, and if needed, materials like DVDs can also be provided to support events. So what I'm going to do is show you some of the materials that we've put together. If you are new to our campaign and are not with the libraries that we're participating with, or a school or any other organization that's interested in using the film as a tool to support pollinator conservation, we have created a form where you can sign up to get involved, and we'll get you all the materials needed. So I'll put that in the chat right after this. So let me just get out of presentation mode somehow. I'll show you what our community screening guide looks like. So working with the SciStarter team, we put together a guide that gives you everything you need to host a screening of the film, including links where you can watch it and access it online. The form which I mentioned, and if you complete this form to sign up, we'll add your event details to our event map so that anyone can find it. You can also use our event map to find other existing events coming up too, and it's worth checking out because there might be one in your neighborhood and could be good co-promotional opportunities. In addition to the film, we've also created several great short videos around different pollinator concepts, ranging in length from 1 minute to 10. And we'll go through those a bit more in detail, but if 53 minutes is too long for your event, you do have these shorter content options as well. And we have linked out to all of these videos. And we also have a fantastic pre-recorded video introduction from Martin Dorn himself, where he speaks a bit about why he created the film and what he hopes viewers take away from it. And then arranging a screening of a film is a great opportunity to inspire conversation and a great opportunity to really localize the discussion. So we've included some recommendations for local experts that you can invite to participate in a conversation around the film, as well as discussion conversations that can take, Martin's story in Bristol, UK, and really contextualize it for your community. In addition, we have also coupled our viewing guide with the phenomenal citizen science resources from SciStarter. They have some fantastic kits, which Tara will talk you through, that provide excellent community engagement opportunities and opportunities to support citizen science directly. So we've included these as a post-viewing activity that anyone can enjoy. And Tara will tell you more about that. So we'll send out this guide in this form to take a look at after this webinar. And you can also preview some of our short pollinator videos, which we produced, co-produced with Seeker, who creates Gen Z and millennial focused online content, many of which feature Dr. Sam Ramsey, who is an expert on the film, in his fantastic science education videos on social media. He's also known as Dr. Bugs. And these videos, as well as the ones that we co-produced with Days Edge, give you a fantastic overview of, what is a pollinator? What do they do that affects our day-to-day life? And some of these videos also look at just some of the weird and wonderful things about bees. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Kate Walker from the World Wildlife Fund, who can tell you more about the phenomenal materials that her team created through the WWF Classroom, Wild Classroom program, all of which are available for free to use as well.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for having me here. I'm Kate Walker, and I'm on the Wild Classroom Education team at WWF. For those who may be unfamiliar, Wild Classroom is WWF's digital education platform that contains a variety of free resources and materials to help assist educators with teaching environmental conservation topics. So within our library, our cross-curricular lesson plans, social and emotional learning activities, videos, games, and crafts about species and habitats, as well as our Conservation in the Classroom live stream series that connects conservation experts with students across the country. So in support of the 1 Square Foot initiative and My Garden of 1,000 Bees, we've released a series of educational materials about pollinators, wildflowers, and grasslands. So first up here, which is currently available, is our Grasslands of the Northern Great Plains curriculum pack. And you can find this on our website at wildclassroom.org/grasslands. This pack contains a resource guide filled with easy to read information on the importance of grassland ecosystems and their members, including native wildflowers and pollinators. It also contains a set of discussion questions broken down by grade bracket, activity plans covering various science learning benchmarks, and some fun supplementary materials like Kahoot games and downloadable posters. Recently added to this pack is a how to plant a pollinator friendly garden guide with tips based on your space and setting, and a wildflower journal so that students can track their garden's progress and its visitors. Next up here is our Grasslands and Pollinators activity book, which is great for more informal learning environments outside of the classroom, as it contains kid-friendly reading material and fun puzzles rather than structured lesson plans. So each spread of this activity book has a colorful, engaging infographic on one side and a correlating activity on the opposite side to reinforce comprehension. So you can see some of the examples here. It includes Who's That Pollinator, where kids match the pollinator to zoomed in photos of its unique adaptations, and the Buzz on Bees, where after learning about different kinds of bees found in North America, kids complete a maze to determine which bee will make it to the wildflower. So this activity book is available for free download off of that same webpage where the curriculum kit is found. So last but not least, last thing to mention here, coming very soon is a virtual field trip to the Northern Great Plains. This is scheduled to be completed in the next couple of weeks. Knowing that this huge grassland ecosystem exists right here in the United States, but many kids will never have the opportunity to visit it, our goal for this virtual field trip was to have it be a virtual sensory experience that encourages kids to really use their imagination and envision themselves in the Northern Great Plains, hearing the sounds, smelling the smells, and seeing the wildlife as they watch. The video will consist of both actual Northern Great Plains footage as well as animation, and includes cameos from WWF's Clay Bolt and Monica Rattling Hawk. Starting off with the large fauna that are characteristic to the Northern Great Plains, the video then gives viewers a closer look at the numerous life forms found between and underneath the grass. It'll also introduce the communities of people like the Oglala Lakota Nation that Monica is a part of, that are the region's primary caretakers, and explain to young viewers how they can do their part to protect grasslands and the wildlife that depend on them right from their own communities. We've also created a field guide that will accompany the video that contains pre and post activities meant to enhance student comprehension and reflect on their experience on the field trip. So as I mentioned, the video and the field guide should be completed in the next couple of weeks, and it'll be added to that same webpage, the wildclassroom.org/grasslands, by the end of April. So we cannot wait to share it with everyone, and thank you for having me. I think now I pass it back to Alex.
Thanks, Kate. It sounds so great. I can't wait to watch this. It'll be an amazing experience. So in addition to the film, the short videos, the educational content that Kate just outlined, and the phenomenal citizen science activities that Tara will talk you through later, our toolkit also includes everything you need to help spread the word about your screening event and pollinator conservation activities as well. So we included template language for social media and newsletter promotions that can be customized, as well as some graphics to give you some fabulous bee photos that you can use to get folks excited to learn more. All of which are downloadable here. And if you want to use our hashtag plant wildflowers, you can join the greater conversation as well, and help your event be discoverable to those around the country who are also doing similar work through the campaign. And then the last thing we wanted to flag is just consider some of these fantastic upcoming key dates and months and weeks of awareness as a potential hook to get your community engaged and interesting in pollinator conservation, and just the wonderful weirdness of bees. So we've included a list here that can get you started for thinking. And we also wanted to flag Pollinator Week, which is a really big week of activities and engagement that takes place nationwide. And we have a lovely video from the organization, the Pollinator Partnership, that runs it, which outlines what the opportunity is. So like I said, after this, we will share a form where anyone who is new to the campaign can sign up to get involved. You can also find additional resources, including some of these educational materials that we mentioned on our website. And we also, one material that we didn't go through was what's called a BioBlitz guide. And this is an activity to help folks get outside and use apps like iNaturalist and Seek to explore the world around them. It couples nicely with the citizen science material, so I'll throw that in the chat too for folks to take a look at. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tara.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to everybody. We actually have some time. I thought maybe we'd pause for a few questions right now before we move into the citizen science portion of this presentation, because you all presented some amazing resources. I did have note some questions down. One for Clay. Clay, how many different bees are there in North America?
So in North America, if we consider North America to be the US and Canada, we have around 4,000 known species, but new species are being discovered all the time. When you include Mexico, you get over 6,000 species. And quite honestly, here in Montana, for example, we have around 700 species, but the whole entire eastern part of the state still hasn't been surveyed. So I suspect that in the next few years, we're going to discover many, many more.
Amazing. Question that was from Anita Murphy. Thank you for that question, Anita. Question from Jacqueline Vital. Do you need to request permission to screen any of the films and videos if we are a library, or do we just register our events?
I can take that one. So I'll put the form in the chat box now if you're new to the campaign. Basically, it is free for anyone to show the film using the live PBS link. So you can show it at any time, and all of the short videos that we shared are also available online for free on our website. The one thing that does require permission is if you need a DVD or digital download, and we of course want to make those available for those who need it for accessibility purposes. We understand some libraries may be a better Wi-Fi than others, so we don't want to leave anyone out. So that form does include an option to just to check a box to the terms of use, but we can provide those for free as well.
Wonderful. And lastly, there was a question from Heather. Oh, there's a couple more questions from Heather Gayton. Can you drop that in the chat? I think you meant links to the various things. I encourage our presenters to drop any links that they talked about in the chat, and we will be sending a follow-up email to all folks registered today with a set of all of the resources and links, which reminds me, Alex, after this, we should probably get that email started together. And so you'll get all of that. We're also recording this webinar, and we'll send you the link to that webinar as well. So look for that email from us post-webinar with all of the information that we shared today. All right, so let me just get my slides going now. One moment. All right. Everyone seeing my slides? So we at SciStarter and at the National Citizen and Community Science Library Network, we're all about citizen science. And we have a quick poll. I'm just curious, before we get into what is citizen science, have you participated in a citizen science project or event before today? Emily, why don't you go ahead and launch that poll? And let's see.
Like we have about 86% have participated, so we'll give it a couple more seconds here.
Looks like I missed a really good question about bees in apartment and maybe more urban settings. So we'll get to that at the end. Great question.
All right, I'm going to end the poll. So the question was, have you participated in a citizen science project or event before today? 48% said yes, and 52% said not yet. So hopefully soon.
That's great. I love seeing folks that haven't yet, because then, you know, hopefully after today we have some impact. And for those who have, yay, and maybe you haven't done this project or the couple of projects that we're going to be talking about today. So citizen science is a global movement that connects scientists working on research with the community, to participate in their research, to help advance science by making observations, collecting data, analyzing data if a scientist has too much data. So there's a ton of citizen science projects out there, and it's how people are making an impact in their communities and engaging in real science. These are just some really quick facts. Because of citizen scientists, folks like you who are going out there and enabling scientists to do their research, because of you all, we know, for example, that bird populations have declined in the last 50 years, that some birds are breeding earlier, right? Folks are sitting in their backyards or going for walks and adding this data to these databases, and this is how we're getting this information. We know that 50+ types of bacteria live in your belly button. I don't want to know how they collected that data, but sounds like an interesting project. That the first flowering species are flowering 9 days earlier. I'm sure we've all noticed that in the last couple of weeks. Trees that normally bloom in March started budding in January. This one is one of my favorites, that a new type of aurora was discovered, and the citizen scientists that discovered it named it Steve. I think that one was in Alaska. And then this is an amazing impact as well. In one weekend, citizen scientists accomplished 2,566 research hours, which is the equivalent to 3.5 months in a lab. So that just goes to show you the impact, the real impacts that citizen science projects are having in the community and in the world. So at SciStarter, we curate these projects to make them more accessible to those who want to participate. So we encourage you to go make an account on SciStarter today, and you can go and view the thousands of projects that are on the website, and we have made it easy for you to find things that you're interested in. You can go to the project finder, look for keywords. If you're an educator, there's a way to search by age grade, by interest, by subject, and you can look up all the different projects, especially ones that are local to you, right? A lot of citizen science is happening right in your backyards, and your communities are impacted in different ways. What we saw on this Zoom, we have folks from coast to coast here, and the projects that are happening are sometimes really local and really require the direct community. So you can go and search within your area what citizen science projects are happening. Excuse me. But there are also some happening globally too. And one of those I want to tell you about today. Let's see if this video plays. It wasn't playing before. So I have another, I'm gonna have to just go to another video, but the Great Sunflower Project is the one that I wanted to talk about today for anyone to be able to participate. And it obviously connects so well with the My Garden of 1,000 Bees and the Plant Wildflowers Initiative. The Great Sunflower Project is actually the biggest citizen science project with over 100,000 participants, and it helps to identify where pollinators are. Wouldn't mind just muting yourself.
Look in the CSF, there's one sunny cell. Yeah, it's a section whenever you have time.
Actually, I don't see it. It was unmuted.
Is it ALL or TALL? TAL. Okay.
Yeah. Separate the initial mirror with negative. So.
Hello. Whoever's
okay.
unmuted, make sure you're muted, but I'm just gonna go. Don't know who that is. Okay, so the Great Sunflower Project is the largest, as I mentioned, and it helps identify wildflowers. Let's watch a quick video about the Great Sunflower Project. The video does a much better job of explaining what the project is all about than I can. Let me know if you hear the sound playing for you all.
Did you know that there's a crisis facing pollinators like birds, bats, butterflies, and especially bees? The Great Sunflower Project needs citizen scientists to identify where pollinators are doing well and where they are not. This is important because 1/3 of the food in the U.S. depends on pollinators. It's easy to help. Watch for pollinators on sunflowers or any other flowering plant. First, identify and count the flowers you are monitoring. Count the pollinators you see on the flowers and record the amount of time you watched. Upload your results on a computer or smartphone. Join the thousands of other volunteers across the country who are part of the Great Sunflower Project. You can make a difference.
Again, we'll make sure to share all of these links with you today. But this is an important link to go to for the Great Sunflower Project on SciStarter.org/the Great Sunflower Project. Emily will drop that link in the chat. Once you make your SciStarter account, you're able to track your progress and participate through your SciStarter dashboard on this project. And it's super easy to participate. The project dashboard and this page will give you everything that you need to know. And yeah, this can be done. I mean, the age range for this project is vast. It can be done with young children. They just need an adult to input the data for them. But everyone loves this project, and it's especially great for libraries. So I see Janie said in the chat, we did the Great Backyard Bird Count in February. That's yes. Libraries love the Great Sunflower Project. It's really great for them. If you haven't heard about it, this is why we're here to tell you about it today. We at the National Citizen and Community Science Library Network, our goal is to help libraries become community hubs for citizen science by empowering them with the knowledge, skills, and confidence to engage and make citizen science more accessible in their communities. I was so pleased to see that over 50% of the folks here today are from libraries. So please sign up and join the network. Emily put the link in the chat. It is free to join. We offer ongoing professional development webinars. We have developed a suite of resources. There is 2 self-guided training tutorials. You can check everything out on that library network page. And we're going to be doing a whole website remodel. So you'll see a beautiful website coming out in later summer. But for now, this website will give you everything that you need to know about the library network and the upcoming events. One of those resources that we developed are these library build-a-kit guides. So many libraries across the country are starting to house citizen science kits that make citizen science more accessible for folks with everything that you need to complete a project. So for example, we have an Observing Pollinators kit that corresponds with the Great Sunflower Project. And that kit has everything you need from the binoculars to the data sheets to an activity guide that guides you through the process of uploading the data on SciStarter. And also in those kits, these are kits for librarians, these build-a-kit guides, and they take you through we have links to all the materials in the kits. We have all promotional materials for you, so bookmarks and checkout cards and rack cards. I'm curious in the chat, has anyone built any of the citizen science kits that we have been promoting over the last few years? Let us know in the chat. The other project that I thought was a really good connection to the Great Sunflower Project is the Exploring Biodiversity Project, which includes uploading data into the iNaturalist app, going out and observing your community. That kit we encourage folks to put together has a lens in it so that you can take close-up photos of your backyard and nature, and also field guides, everything that somebody would need to be able to check out a kit and take it home and participate in the project, no problem. Sarah says, we have a kit, we have kits, they're super popular with our patrons. Wonderful. Last year, Ursula says, last year we received a grant to create the pollinator garden. Absolutely, that's another really good connection. A lot of libraries are including seeds in the kits so that folks can start to plant their own wildflowers or doing a bio blitz in connection with these citizen science kits. It's a way to take the activism around pollinators to the next level, where you're actually contributing to data that a scientist is using to show what's happening, right? We talk about this all the time, and data is an important factor in being able to make the case around declining pollinators. Absolutely. Kathleen says, maybe we put links to your videos on the library's Facebook page. Yes. We actually have an entire page and lots of ads that we've created that you can use to promote citizen science, both the kits as well as just general citizen science. Can my school library get these kits, says Pamela? These are kits that you are building yourselves. So yes, absolutely. I would say the kits range somewhere between $75 to $300, depending on what the theme of the kit is. Some of our kits that include more of our measuring tools are a little bit more expensive, but these two are fairly inexpensive. Please go to that website and you can see how to build that kit. You can take it to your PTO or for libraries to many libraries are receiving LSTA grants to build these kits, or local friends and family groups that are funding these kits. So right now, that is how folks are building these kits. You self-funded, but we're here to help and support and provide technical assistance and guidance around these. And actually so we have some webinars here that we have done last fall on how to build these kits. And they're all recorded on the SciStarter YouTube page. They go through more of a deeper dive. There I am in the little corner for that webinar. And those are, like I said, all recorded. We encourage you to share them with your library staff. For educators that are here, these are also great for you to learn how to build these kits, how to promote them, how to connect them to other initiatives like planting a wildflower garden or a BioBlitz. But there's also some self-guided tutorials on scistarter.org/training and library training. And those can help even more kind of build your capacity around what is citizen science, so that you can talk about it with your patrons and they understand what is citizen science and why it's important to get involved. Lastly, if you do have a kit or if you are planning to build a kit, we'd love to promote you on SciStarter so that other folks can learn about this. Again, this is all free. If you go to scistarter.org/tools, you can add your library and the kits that you have to our map. So right now we just launched this map. Excuse me, we have a bunch of libraries across the country that we have been working with in Arizona and through a pilot program. That's where you can see kind of these bubbles, but we want to add to this. We want to add to this network. We want to add to this growing group of kits. So go ahead and add your library today. And then lastly, before we get to the final questions, how likely are you to use any of these resources shared today? I'm really curious. We've heard of some amazing resources. Emily's going to throw that poll up and we'll conclude with that poll and then get to questions. Go ahead, Emily, you tell me when.
Yep, we have about 78% participation, so I'll give it 10 more seconds, then we'll share the results.
Awesome. Like I said, you don't have to remember all of these links today. We will draft an email for you all together so that both the resources from the World Wildlife Fund and from Tangled Bank Studios are included in that email, and links to all of the resources that we shared today.
Okay, so the poll results, the question was, after today's webinar, how likely are you to use the resources shared today? So 75% said that they will definitely use the resources. 22% said they'll probably use the resources, and 3% said not sure.
All right, great. Those are some strong results. Yes, if you're registered, you will receive all of the resources today, and we're going to email everybody who registered for the webinar. All right, questions. I know I missed one in before about, let me go back.
Tara, I took a couple down, so maybe I could let you know what those are. Someone asked, another person asked, will a recording of the introductory meeting be available for people who did not attend today? So I'll answer this quickly. We'll have a couple of different ways you can get a recording of this. If you registered for the webinar today, even if you didn't attend, we will send out that follow-up email. You'll get all of the links that we talked about today and the recording. And then we will also put it up on our YouTube channel at SciStarter. I will share a link to that in just a moment. And anyone can access it on the YouTube channel. Once it's up, it'll probably be up today or tomorrow. And then let's see. Someone asked if I schedule an event date and we need to change the date, who do we contact? I think that might have been in reference to the film.
That's not a problem. You can just complete the form again, or you can just email me directly, and my email address is in the form.
Great, thank you, Alex. I think that was most of them, but if we missed a question that you put in the chat, feel free to put it back in the chat, or
there's one here from
questions.
Catherine. Do you know when we will receive the seeds if we are signed up?
I can answer that one too. For folks that are already in our campaign, either grantees or those that requested the campaign materials through our RFP earlier in the process, our materials are going out this month. It's just been sort of a staggered schedule to get folks their events, their materials in time for events. So shoot me an email directly if you have a question, but everything should be going out this month.
Wonderful. This was an earlier question that I missed from Sarah Wall. Are there pollinator garden resources for people who live in apartments and don't have yards? Maybe window box planting tips? I'd like to know that question too, because I live in an apartment.
Hi, Tara. And I put a link in the chat earlier to a helpful article, but in short, window boxes are a great place for pollinators. And you basically would follow the same rules you would use for planting in your backyard. So you're going to want to look for native seeds that are native to your part of the country. And there are many online options for that, or you can go to a local garden nursery and they can advise you on that. But basically the best thing to do is put a mix of plants in there that are going to bloom from early spring all the way until fall that are native to your part of the country, and the pollinators will find them. So it's actually quite easy.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to include that article in our follow-up. What other questions? Are there places where you should not plant wildflowers? Asks Dolores.
Dolores, is that a trick question? No, I'm just kidding. You know what? I would say that as long as you, so I could see some situations, for example, if like say you live alongside a stream and there needs to be a certain kind of plant growing alongside that. So you'd want to try to like mimic nature as much as possible. But for a typical, if you've got just a house with a backyard, fill it up with wildflowers and grasses, because that's going to be the best thing you can do to try to mimic that natural environment. If you're not sure what to do, again, you can go to a local garden center that specializes in native plants, or you can go to your local extension service. They're really super helpful for providing guidance and those kinds of things. The main thing is trying to mimic that natural environment that was there before development took place.
Awesome. Kathleen has a question. How would you prepare a grassy lawn to plant wildflowers?
So with this question as well, I did put a little link in the chat with more detail, but in short, there's a couple of different ways to think of it. First of all, if you don't want to dig, the best thing to do is to replace, say, if you have Kentucky bluegrass in your yard, you want to, ideally dig that up and then plant a mix of native grasses and native wildflower seeds. But if you don't want to do that, or you can't do that, there's a couple of options. If you've got a fairly large yard, you can mow the grass pretty short and then seed over the top of it. Make sure you don't have to dig it up or anything like that. The seeds will eventually find their way into the lawn. Of course, don't use any kind of fertilizer or herbicide, because that would kill the wildflower seeds. But in 2 to 4 years, you're going to see those wildflowers starting to come in. You don't even have to condition the soil, really. If you have a small yard, the best thing to do is start interplanting, plugs of wildflowers within that lawn, and that'll allow them to get established faster. So it really just depends on the scale of your yard, but they're pretty hardy, and as long as you keep them wet and they have enough sun and those kinds of things, they will grow.
And Pamela suggests a book, Nature's Best Hope by Doug Ptolemy, if you're interested in native plants.
I would second that. That's a great book.
Awesome. What else? What other great questions are in the chat? Lori asked, do we have a repository of presenters by state for libraries to contact for events? Lori, tell me a little bit more about what you mean in the chat. Do you mean for pollinator events specifically? I know that what we've seen libraries do in the National Library Network is ask their local beekeeping groups or local gardening groups to be presenters. So that's where I would encourage you to go first, right? I don't know, folks, Alex or Clay, if you know of any national groups that folks could, nature centers. Yep, Jared says nature centers as well. Are there any national groups that folks could reach out to? Or like databases of pollinator groups or beekeeper groups?
Yeah, Clay, you go first. I see you came on camera too.
I was just going to quickly say it in terms of, not necessarily for speakers, but in terms of really good resources, and I'll put it in the chat after I say it. The Xerces Society for Invertebrate Conservation has tons of great resources on their websites in terms of regionally appropriate seeds, things you can do to help pollinators, and lots of information to help you learn more about native bees. So that's a great place to start, and I'll put that in the chat.
And the Xerces Society also oversees two programs called Bee City USA and Bee Campus USA. And we actually just did a similar webinar with them, so they are familiar with the film. But they have localized chapters nationwide, so they would make a great partner for an event, and could certainly recommend an expert who could talk to pollinators in your local community.
Thank you. We have such knowledgeable presenters today. This is wonderful. What more other questions do you have? These are all really great questions, folks. All right, if there are no further questions today, thank you again to our speakers for joining us today. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Clay. Thank you, Kate and Jared, for sharing your wonderful resources with us, and for all of your engagement and the chat as well. Thank you to those who participated live. And for those that might be watching this recording, thank you for watching. We will be back at the end of April. The Library Network is hosting one more webinar for Citizen Science Month, which we will share in the follow-up email as well. Thank you again. Bye, everyone.